welcome to the part 2 of the basic animation lesson series. All right, so now we will start with our animation. Again, we're in the animation tab, and if you're watching part 2 instead of part 1, please go back to part 1 and watch that first so that you understand what's happening on this setup. Okay, so again, if I press N, that opens up the sidebar, and the sidebar would have 3 tabs. If you don't have any add-on, you'll have Item, Tool, and then View. Okay, right now you need to be on Item because this is what we're going to be using first so that you can understand how we animate using just the transform tools and their values. Okay, so if I select the UFO controller, it's this gizmo right here with 4 directions. Okay, it's missing the up direction because it's a 2D representation of movement, but it doesn't mean you can't go up. If you have the move tool activated, gizmo right here, you can just select that. Okay, again, I'm using gizmo tools here so you can see what I'm clicking and selecting instead of using keyboard shortcut. However, if you are very familiar with Blender at this point regarding keyboard shortcuts, you can also do perform all this using keyboard shortcut, and I'll just show that real quick, even though I won't be using it for the lesson. Okay, so for the move tool, the keyboard shortcut is G. Okay, for the rotation, keyboard shortcut is R right there. Okay, and I'm going to right click to cancel that, and then S for scaling. Okay, all right, so when you do keyboard shortcut, it does not activate the gizmo right here. So even though I press R and I can rotate, the tool right here is not active. So keep that in mind. Okay, so how do you move keyboard shortcut without how do you move and go at a specific axis? Okay, so it's a combo keyboard shortcut. So if you press G for move and then X for the axis, then you are restricted to going left and right or horizontal movement. Okay, if I do G and then Z to go up and down, it's locked into that, and G, Y goes. And it goes the same way for rotation, of course. If I press R and then X, it rotates it along the R and X. Okay, rotation and X axis. All right, so enough of that. We'll be using this instead. Okay, so I resetted the values for this helper, or our transform gizmos, or the UFO controller, so that the values here, it's 0, 0, 0, 0, and then of course 1, 1, 1 on scale, because if that's 0, you won't see it. Okay, that means it's very similar as if you made a cube or any object, or the cube that you get when you start Blender. So you can see here the value of the cube is at the center of the world, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, however, this one, even though it's lowered, it still has that value because I applied the transform for this, which we'll explain later. Okay, so that means when you move, let's say, this cube up, it generates value on the z-axis. You see it right there? So if I want this to go up, let's say 5 units up, I type in 5, it goes up. And then if I wanted -5, it goes down. Okay, so that would be the same thing for our UFO. So press X, I'm going to delete that. Okay, so since go back to selecting this, okay, on item. All right, so now let's say you are practicing and you move that over there and you move it up here, and then you go like, okay, now I want to move it back there, but you ran out of undos to do it. You can simply go here and then put value of 0 on X, Y, and Z, and it goes back to how it started. Same thing if you rotate it. Okay, so if I go rotation here, go like that. Let's say you made some crazy rotation, and then you go, can't work with this now. You simply reset these values to 0. Scaling is the same thing. If I scale this, if I grab, let's say, the X-ray and made it fat like that, simply change this back to 1, not 0. That's the difference between the other two. It goes back to the way it was. Okay? All right, so now that we know that we can control this spaceship either by doing it visually, moving the gizmo, or typing in values here. You can also slide this. If you click and hold this down with your left mouse button, you're able to grab it left and right, and you can generate values by simply dragging it. Okay, if you want to be more specific, you can type in that value. Let's say we go -5. It goes this side of the coordinate system, okay, of the world, sorry. And if you put +5, it goes to this side, okay? So either way, we can animate this, all right? So based on the information from the previous video, which is the #1 video for the 3rd week, we have 4 steps, right? First, we select the object we want to keep. It's this one right here, okay? Next is that we position the timeline where we want our animation to occur. It's either a starting point or an end point or a midpoint, doesn't matter. And third is that we transform or move, rotate, or scale the object we want to animate. And finally, we want to keyframe it. So 4 steps, they just keep repeating, okay? So simplify this, we're just going to do 2 movements for this one. We just want the spaceship from landing and then going up. Super easy. So that would be the Z-axis, okay? All here for the information, okay? So we need 2 keyframes for that, okay? So I'm going to switch this. I'm going to hit tilde right here and then go to the front, okay? I have this selected right here, which is still the gizmo, so it's selected, okay? We simply, and I'm going to scroll a little bit here and then pan it down. So we want that thing to go up. Let me see the screen. Maybe up to that one right there. Okay. All right. So we could see it right here, and we should have enough real estate here. All right. So we just want to animate this using the Z-axis. Very specific. Right. We're not going to animate using all the keys. Okay. So let me explain that first. So we need 2 keyframes. One here at the bottom and one at the top. It just simply went up, okay? So our first key will be on frame 1. And then let's say it takes a spaceship, 24 frames, 1 second to go up right there, okay? So the other keyframe is on frame 25, which is 24 frames, 1 second worth of lift, okay? So let's go back to the 4 steps from the previous video. First, select the object you want to animate, okay? There it is, it's selected. Okay, and then next, position your time where you want your animation to occur. So we want it to start on frame 1, so it's positioned on frame 1. Next is the transform tools where you want your object to be located. Okay, which is right here at the bottom. So we don't have to do anything; it's already set to the bottom. And number 4 is to keyframe it. So how do we keyframe in Blender? There's 2 ways that I can show you right now. There's multiple ways, depending on where you are, of course. But right now, the easiest way is to just click on the keyboard shortcut I, okay? And then it pops up. It says, what do you want to animate? Location means move or position. It's a move tool. Rotation and scale, of course. And you can do combo. You can do location and rotation, so on and so forth. But if you click location right here, nothing wrong with that. It will actually keyframe it. I'm going to click it here, okay? There you go. So you can see there's a dot or a keyframe on our dope sheet now, on our timeline, that we mark this, hey, this is your starting point. However, when you press I and then just hit location, this is what happens. You also get a keyframe on X and Y, which we don't want to animate. Those are static keys at this point, and they just clutter your space. So if I go here and open that up, you can see it marked a dot or a keyframe on X and Y, even though we don't want to, we just want Z location, okay? So if you want to animate all 3 locations, that's great. Press I and location. But for our purpose, we just want Z-axis. So I'm going to click undo, Command Z, okay? All right, until my keyframe goes away. All right. So remember, we did the 4 steps. Select the object, position the time, transform the object, and then this is how we do it, right? So again, press and make sure your sidebar is open on item. You go location and then Z-axis, there it's at 0. We're going to right-click this, and then instead of insert keyframes, that would be the same thing as hitting I on location like what we did before. Simply go here, insert single keyframe. When you click that, it keyframes it just on the Z. As you can see, this has that kind of sage kind of colored item. And then if I go here on my dope sheet, only the Z location is actually keyed. Makes it a lot cleaner. Okay, so now let's go and proceed to the next keyframe, which is to make this UFO go up. Okay, so again, the 4 steps: select the object you want to animate. It's still selected. Position the time. We did agree. It's 24 frames, so 1 through 25. Okay, 25 in the timelines where we want it. 1 second worth of animation. Okay, we're also watching our recording camera here. Make sure that we don't go out of frame. You know, kind of like that. We want to keep it in there. Okay, so the 3rd step after we position the time is to transform the object. Okay, so now just for the sake of demo here, if I move this up, let's put in whole values here. So I'm just going to go 7 here. Okay, positive 7. Okay, that high right there. Okay, so 0 to positive 7. And then what's the next step? 4th one is to keyframe this. How do we do that? We right click the input value here, insert single keyframe, and now we have oops, sorry, I forgot to yeah, right there, insert single keyframe. Okay, because I got it selected, and now this is animated. So if I scrub my playhead, there it is, it's animated. All right, so what do we want to do next? So let's kind of keep continuing with this and show you how to edit as well. So we have the Z location right there. Everything will be selected if I just select that key because we don't have any other selection here. Okay, so right now we want to keep this UFO flying or hovering right here for, let's say, up to frame 75. Okay, so right now we want to we can animate it one way. Same thing as before, is select the object, move the time, so go to frame 75. And then we want to keep it at the exact same location, so which is 7. We can just simply right click this and insert single keyframe, and that will do it. Okay, so it will just stay on top. Okay, and then from 75 to 100 we want to land it. So that's the plan. Okay, so there's another way without doing the 4 steps right here, is that we can just simply copy and paste or duplicate our keys. So I'm going to click undo here, make sure that there's no key selected. So remember our key on frame 25, this one right here. Okay, this one, the value is 7. Okay, right there, value is 7. So we can simply duplicate that. Okay, to duplicate in Blender, make sure your cursor is positioned where you want to duplicate. This time it's a dope sheet. Select the frame 25 keyframe right there. Okay, Shift D to duplicate. Shift D. When you drag this to the right and place it on 75, that would be the same thing as doing all the steps, selecting keyframing. Okay, so, and then that's it. It's all done. Okay. Another thing too is that we can just simply select this and then drag it all the way to 100. Okay, Shift D, drag that all the way to 100. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that the spaceship goes down, because what is frame 1 on the Z-axis is the same value, 0. Okay, so we only keyframe twice. Stays in place and goes down. Okay, and it's just looping here because we're only watching up to 100 frames. Okay, so you can easily edit your keyframe and not do all the 4 steps all the time. Okay, so however, for the sake of kind of repeating the process so it'll stick more, I'm going to click undo. Okay, and then we'll do the traditional one. Okay, so we go to 75 right here. The object still selected, we position the time. Then I'm going to keyframe here, 7, insert single keyframe. Okay, and then when we go to 100 right here, okay, object still selected, we position the time. We want to bring this down to 0. Okay, I can type in 0 right there, right click it, insert single keyframe. That would be the same thing as selecting, Shift D, dragging it there, Okay, and now there it is. Really simple animation, 100 frames worth. Okay, so that's how the animation is done. Okay, and how we keyframe. So now let's add some elements to this so that it's not too kind of boring. Okay, again, we're not using any principles of animation other than what's included in the default Blender behavior, meaning even though we did not apply any principles of animation, Blender applied some of that through its spacing. Okay, so it made sure when you first animate a key, it's very slow on takeoff. You can see right there, I'm on frame 1. I'm using the arrow keys right now to travel right and left of the timeline. So you can see here, it's very slow lifting, and then once it goes up, it accelerates, and then it slows down again when it reaches its destination. So it has a principle of animation embedded in there by default, and you can change that, of course. It's the slow in and slow out principle. Okay, so when it stays here, this is a constant speed. So as you can see, our spaceship is not moving because there's no activity between 26 and 74. Okay, and then once I reach 75, it starts to slowly go down again, then accelerates, and then before it lands, it also slows down. Right there. Okay, so it has slow in, slow out, slow in, slow out. All right, so it has those principles. However, let's add some kind of, in a way, life to this spaceship, because it's just way too boring just hovering straight right here. So here we can start kind of implementing some movement to this spaceship where we want to make it kind of, it's like hovering. Okay, so we can go to frame 50 here, which is between the in between the frames. Actually it's 51, but we didn't go one-on-one here. But anyway, I want to there's movement, there's no movement on z-axis here, okay, which is 7 on top. So on frame 50, I want it to go up a little bit. Okay, maybe go just 8, 1 unit up. Okay, I'm going to right click, insert single keyframe, and then let's take a look. All right, so it goes like this. So it has that kind of movement a little bit. Okay, all right, so let's add some more to that. So let's kind of go in between. I'm going to go frame, let's say 38 on this one. Okay, and then lower this a little bit. Remember it was 7 before. Let's go kind of 6 or 6 point. Let's go 6. Okay, insert single keyframe. So now first it went up on 25 right there, but now it's going to go down like so, and then go up here, and it goes down there. But let's make it, it goes up here. Let's make it go down on 63 right here. Let's also add value of 6. Insert keyframe right there. So there's a little bit of hovering now. So we added a, remember 7 right here. It goes down and then up, down, up, and then down. Okay. All right, there we go. So now it looks like it's kind of hovering there, and then it decided to land. All right. So what else can we add to this one? Okay, we can add some rotation animation. Okay, so let's stop the playback, which is the space bar. Okay, so here when it goes up, we can go when it's on frame 25, we can rotate. So I'm going to go rotate here, and then we want to rotate along the y-axis, which is kind of tilts it. Okay, we can kind of go when it's on 25, then when it goes down, we can probably tilt it a little bit like so. And then when it goes up, it goes center again, then it goes down like this. Just kind of subtle rotation, just so that we can add something to it. All right, so we want to start the animation on frame 25. We don't want to be rotating it while it's going up. or we don't want to be rotating it while it's going down. So it starts on frame 25. The object's still selected. I'm in my rotate tool right here. Okay, so we want to rotate along the y-axis. Since we want to start rotating on frame 25, we're going to key this at no degree, basically no rotation on frame 25. Okay, frame 25, y-axis right here. I'm going to insert single keyframe. Okay, all right, so you can see here we have a y Euler. Ignore Euler for now, just y rotation. Okay, we have a key on 25 with no rotation. So we go to frame, wherever this is, 38. We're going to slightly rotate this. You can grab it here, or you can click and drag here. Let's say we go a little bit like so, just -4. Very subtle, -4. Right click, insert single keyframe. Okay, and then when it goes to frame 50 right here, we want it go back to 0. I'll just type it. And then right click to keyframe. Again, the 4 steps are always working. All right, so there it is. So it flies up and then it tilts down a little bit and it balances itself again. And when it goes right here, you're kind of obvious on 63. You probably want to animate it going this way a little bit. I'm going to go 5 degrees. The other one was -4. So it's not slightly balanced. Okay, it's a little bit off. And that's what we want in animation. You don't want, it's good to learn this stuff when you're just starting, whole numbers and symmetry, because it's easier to understand, but variation is also good, okay? It's actually very good in animation. So I'm gonna right click here on frame 63, rotation Y, insert single keyframe. So now we can see here it went up and it dips over there and then goes up. It slightly rotates that way. Okay, and then finally on 75, we want this to go back to no rotation, which is 0. And then right click, insert single keyframe. So now if we watch our animation from the beginning here, so it has those slight kind of, all right. And we're not, again, incorporating any principles of animation here other than what's default, slow it in and out, but that would work for now, right? Just so that it's kind of slightly hovering. All right, so that's transform tool. We're not using scale for this, not unless we want it kind of showing up or not. I don't think that's will work with our animation, because we can scale this one as if it teleported here, but it's the same principle with the I just don't have any thing for this one that's going to be useful regarding scaling. But again, it's the same thing. You would scale it, and to kind of exaggerate and all that stuff, but we're just using move and rotation for this one. All right, so that kind of completes this exercise. Super simple. We added movement and we added some rotation and keyframing by right clicking. All right, see you on the next part.